Bernie Sanders chiming in there. So I did speak briefly with President Trump earlier today, and he talked about the fact that all he believes is necessary in the strait really is a presence. He said, obviously, there's a danger that exists there. But when you think about it, and Kayleigh, let me get your thoughts on this. If you had that mobilization of an effort by including Japan, potentially South Korea, who the president told me today, are better than NATO, but not great in terms of showing up for us. If you had ships from France, ships from the United Kingdom, and they all were there to just do protective caravans through the strait, wouldn't that presence in and of itself create a whole different dynamic?
Absolutely. That would be a game changer. And that's big reporting that you got there from President Trump. We heard in his meeting with Takaichi yesterday in the Oval Office that they are stepping up. They are being cooperative. And, the degree to which that is manifested, we will see. But it would be a game changer for gas prices. Ultimately, though, I think you are going to see a market recalibration in the long term when it comes to oil and gas. And what I mean by that is when you look at the action President Trump took in Venezuela, we have seen $2 billion in transactions on oil and gas out of Venezuela since that took place. And in fact, they have the largest proven crude oil reserve in the world, 303 billion barrels. So we will see a market recalibration, not just in Venezuela, but in Iran when this all gets resolved. I would remind everyone, when we looked at those gas prices, the national average pulled up $3.88. The national average under Biden at its height was over $5. What did we get for that? Nothing. What will we get for this potentially? An Iran that is never able to have a nuclear weapon. And finally, I would just say this. I am so tired of hearing from the left, was this imminent? Was this imminent? This wasn't imminent. This wasn't imminent. Well, wait, let's go back in all of time. Let's go back to President Obama. I found a 2015 report from Obama just after the nuclear deal was reached. And it says this: before this agreement, Iran's breakout time, that's the time to get a nuclear weapon, was 2 to 3 months. So 10 years ago, they were 2 to 3 months from a nuclear weapon, but this isn't imminent. I have a clip from Jen Psaki, too, where she says the breakout time is a few months. Oh, but wait, this wasn't imminent. So when does it become imminent? When they get a nuclear weapon, when there's mutually assured destruction, when we can't stop them any longer? I guess that is the answer of the left.
Yeah, Jessica, it's so interesting to me when you look at history and you look at the alliances that we've had with the United Kingdom, for example. They put out a brand new statement this afternoon. And they underline that the UK is now working closely with international partners to develop a viable plan to safeguard international shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. So it sounds like they're starting to come around. We've heard General Jack Keane say that he believes that eventually they'll be there. We've heard Mark Rutte say the same thing. But the president sounds like he's kind of completely fed up with this dollar late, too short response from the United Kingdom in particular.
Well, yeah, he's definitely frustrated because a lot hasn't gone the way that he thought that it would, not only with being able to start a war without giving a heads up to some of your longest held alliances, but in the reaction from Iran. He said in the Oval Office a few days ago, no one could have predicted that they were going to react this way when there was widespread evidence that they were going to, in fact, react exactly this way. The notion that all of the criticism is coming from the left is really unfounded. I was watching an interview with Senator John Kennedy from this afternoon with Dasha Burns, where they're talking about the supplemental funding that they're going to come for another $200 billion when the Pentagon is already funded at $1.1 trillion. He said, I'm not signing off on a dollar more unless there are hearings on this. There should be enough money to do it. Especially since it started out as this is a targeted mission. It could be just a few days. Then we move to a week or two. Now we're at 4 to 6 weeks. But these ships that are coming over with more troops, it takes a couple weeks for them to get there. So we're already at least at that point. And we know that we're going to have those boots on the ground to secure the Iranian coastline and hopefully get the Strait of Hormuz back open. This is the least popular war or military intervention in modern American history. They have done, I guess, in their pitch, they've increased the support for it 5 and 10 points, depending on the poll, only bringing you up to the mid-40s. They have made basically no effort to sell this to the American people. And I understand railing against the idea of, President Trump, he promised us no new wars, et cetera. Really, the line in the sand is those boots on the ground. People have a large threshold to tolerate strikes abroad, but when American lives are going to be lost, which they already have been, potentially more coming. I think 232 have been wounded, most of them with severe brain trauma. The American public is not interested in that. And if you can't be bothered to really make the case to them and get them behind it the way that we have seen in past conflicts, it's not surprising that you end up with a result where Trump is basically having to go it alone in a lot of ways and just rail against our friends.
Right. But we've heard from presidents, and Paul, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, for almost my entire lifetime, that something needed to be done about this regime, that they were killing Americans year after year after year. Hundreds of Marines in Beirut. They were attacking the United States. They control the strait with a chokehold on it that is untenable. The idea that if we had done nothing, there wouldn't have been ramifications for that is something that has long been negated in anyone who has studied the situation closely, Paul. So when you look now at where we are, we're a little more than 3 weeks into this. 3 weeks is nothing. I mean, it took a month to secure Iwo Jima. A month, okay? Your thoughts?
This is a nation, first of all, with 90 million people, which is highly militarized and obviously a completely despotic regime that spends all day, every day, not thinking about its people, but thinking about how to get rid of Israel and America, not necessarily in that order. Let's up the stakes here. This is something you don't hear very often. Iran had an intercontinental ballistic missile program, ICBM. What does that mean? That means at some point when that thing is fully developed, it can reach New York, Rome, Paris, London. All of the people right now that are saying, except for New York, okay, go ahead, America, we'll hold your coats. NATO, by the way, who hasn't even hit the 2% of required spending under the current charter. We hear about, oh, they're going to go to 5%. That's 2035. By then, they'll find a way to get out of it, okay? The ICBM program, one of the things that drives it is, and another thing you don't hear about, Iran has satellites. So Iran they're not up there for civilian purposes. They're not up there to broadcast the internet. They're there to guide missiles. So at some point, when you have a nuclear device, which they told Witkoff, we got the goods, right? Well, now you got a missile you can put it on. You can reach all of these places. Every president, 7 presidents in a row said, this thing is an existential problem. I was at the Council of Foreign Relations in the room with Kerry when he got off the plane from Austria. His first stop was CFR. I was there. I was newly inducted. He came in. He talked to that crowd, which is center-left, by the way. And at the end of the day, he had to resolve to, look, we're not naive. That's what he yelled at the crowd, because everybody's like, we're not buying it, pal. Are you kidding me? You're telling me that we're going to trust them for their inspections? So all that Trump did here, and by the way, MAGA, CNN poll, 100% behind Donald Trump right now. I mean, when have you ever seen 100% in anything?
Of MAGA?
Yeah, of MAGA, yes. Well, so what? I mean, you know,
Except
that's...
sans Megyn Kelly and Tucker
Let me ask you this.
Carlson.
Who wins the election tomorrow under the current circumstances with the war going on? Put him
Kamala
against
Harris.
Newsom or Kamala? Kamala wins
If you help, there has been polling that she would win. If you go out and you look at those gas prices and you look at the fact that inflation is ticking up and the prediction now is that it's going to be over 5%, Kamala Harris is winning that election.
Okay.
Yikes.
You know, you can cling to that, but the idea that Kamala Harris could win an election among 330 sentient human beings in this nation isn't going to happen.
Nope. So, Greg, I spoke today to a national champion wrestler in Iran who's now an activist. There was a 17-year-old young man, a 19-year-old, excuse me, who was hung in a public square. I'm not hearing outrage on what's going on here about him or about the 30,000 people who were killed in the streets by people who are on the left in this country. And I can't figure out why they're so silent on all of this. What's your thought on that or all of this?
Well, because it's a political calculation. It's not a moral one. It is normal to be against war. You know, no one argues with that unless what you've said and done before disqualifies you. So if you are anti-Trump on everything, then we know that what you're doing now isn't driven by facts or premises or results. It's driven by emotion. So when you come out against the war, it's kind of a false positive. It doesn't matter. Of course, there are people on the right who are critical of the war. That holds more weight until you look at why. A lot of them link it to Israel, but the internet will show you Trump was all about Iran before Netanyahu was. And this is despite the loudest influencers, which you mentioned, saying very critical of the war. Generally influencers that you mock and degrade until they agree with you. But the MAGA poll you can laugh at, but that's exactly who these people claim to speak for. That is why it's important. The idea that if it's not popular, you shouldn't do it. I'm just glad that that's why Trump doesn't care. Because imagine if you ran by that 100 years ago or whatever. I feel like we're watching a pot of water boiling, and it's our job to comment on the changing bubbles. But we should step back and look at the pot, the globe. The world is changing, and a lot of the change is due to Trump, whether it's Cuba, Venezuela, Iran, the Middle East in general, Russia, Ukraine, China. It seems like things are happening around the world, and they're kind of going our way for once. Before Trump, there were things going around in the world in reverse, right? If they were in Trump's position, no leader would forfeit the progress that he's making right now. Think about that. They know what he's doing. And it's hard to debate the nuts and bolts on this when you're coming off of 8 years of Democratic rule. You know, the chief criticism is, you know, Trump doesn't have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. Well, you didn't reveal that plan when you opened the border. When you just created so many burdens on our cities and the crime inflicted on our citizens, the effect on our culture, the traditions of assimilation, all of things fell apart. What was your plan then? The only plan you had was for cheap lawn care and a nanny. You also had no plan when you deliberately put forth a dementia patient for president, and then you threw a drunk in his place when it didn't work out. Where was the plan there? There was never any plan. There was no plan when you elevated trans dogma as some malignant force in schools and sports, or when you demonized Trump supporters so that people got shot. So I don't want to take any criticism about where's your plan, where Democrats can barely plan a lunch.
Look, it's like asking Eisenhower and, you know, the height of the war, Calais or Normandy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not telling you. Of course we're not telling you. That's just how this stuff works. I mean, come on.
Yeah, just one last thought. The irony of Greenland just keeps coming back to my mind, that France and the UK scrambled to get some troops over to Greenland to protect Greenland from President Trump.
Yeah, right.
But they're not willing to help out when there is this obvious threat from Iran.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.